Prologue: the storm that no one saw coming. The night sky over Indiana was heavy with rain. A sudden summer storm had knocked out power across half the city. Inside a darkened house, Rachel sat by the window, staring out at the flashes of lightning that illuminated her backyard. Only hours earlier, her husband had lost his job after 20 years at the same company. The silence in the house was unbearable, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder and the soft sobs of her teenage daughter upstairs. Rachel whispered, "Lord, what do I do now?" Her mind was spinning: the mortgage, the tuition bills, the mounting debt. She had always been strong, always had answers. But that night, in the darkness, she felt small, powerless, and afraid. And then, in that silence, a thought stirred deep inside her heart. It wasn't her own voice, it was gentler, maternal, almost like a memory. "Do not be afraid. Trust. Place it all in His hands." It was the beginning of a journey she never expected, a journey guided by the quiet, steady hand of Mary, who would teach her and others how to stand when storms threatened to destroy them. Rachel's first instinct was to grab control. She updated resumes, called contacts, tried to map out every possible future. But the more she tried, the more she felt like she was drowning. At Mass that Sunday, the Gospel was about the Annunciation. The priest spoke of Mary's yesher willingness to surrender to a plan she didn't fully understand. Rachel sat frozen in her pew. Mary had not demanded to know every detail, every guarantee. She simply said, "Let it be done." That afternoon, Rachel sat at her kitchen table, hands trembling, and whispered her own fiat, "Lord, I give it to you. I cannot carry this alone." It didn't erase the storm, but she noticed something shift. The tightness in her chest loosened. Her tears slowed. She wasn't alone in the boat anymore. In Ohio, a man named Daniel was battling cancer. The treatments left him weak, unable to work, sometimes unable to even get out of bed. His wife, Emily, sat by his side, holding his hand while machines beeped in the background. One night, Daniel confessed, "I don't even know how to pray anymore. I can't find the words." Emily placed a rosary in his hand. "Then don't use words. Just hold this. Let the rhythm of the beads pray for you." Every day, Daniel began to finger the beads. Some days he managed to whisper Hail Marys. Other days, he only held them in silence. Over time, those beads became a lifeline, like drops of oil in a flickering lamp. The prayers kept his hope alive. Mary taught him that prayer wasn't about eloquence or length, it was about connection, about never letting go of the hand that held him through the night. Meanwhile, in Michigan, a young couple, Anthony and Grace, were desperate to start a family. Years of infertility treatments had left them exhausted. Each negative test felt like another nail in their hope. Grace often cried out, "Why us? Why not now?" Then one evening, during Eucharistic adoration, she read the Magnificat. Mary had called herself the handmaid of the Lord, not demanding status or recognition, but choosing humility. Grace realized patience wasn't weakness. It was strength, the strength to wait in hope, even when the timeline was unknown. Months later, when the couple finally decided to adopt, they discovered a joy deeper than they could have imagined. Humility had opened their hearts to a different kind of miracle. In Texas, a hurricane had left dozens of families without homes. Churches opened their halls. Volunteers brought food. But most people were too consumed with their own losses to notice others. Except for Maria, a widow who had lost nearly everything. Despite her own grief, she spent her days cooking meals in the church kitchen, handing out blankets, sitting with the elderly who had no one left. When someone asked why she gave so much while she herself had so little, she smiled. Because Mary never turned away from those who suffered. She stood at the foot of the cross. If she could love then, I can love now. Her simple acts became a light in the darkness. Others soon joined her, and together they rebuilt not just homes, but a community. In New Jersey, a father named Michael sat alone in his truck after his son's funeral. The boy had been only 19. Taken by a sudden car accident. Michael's heart was a cavern of grief. He thought of the image of Mary beneath the cross. By every human measure, it was defeat. Yet she still believed. She still hoped. Through tears, Michael whispered, "If she could hope, so can I." It didn't erase his loss, but it gave him courage to believe in resurrection. To believe that one day he would see his son again. Hope did not bring his child back, it brought Michael back to life. In California, a man named Thomas had built his life on lies. His marriage was collapsing. His children barely spoke to him. And every night he drowned himself in alcohol. One morning, after yet another argument, he left the house and found himself sitting on the steps of a church. Inside, the red sanctuary lamp flickered. Something in his heart cracked open. He went to confession for the first time in 20 years. With trembling lips, he admitted everything. And the priest, lifting his hand, spoke the words of absolution. Thomas staggered out of the confessional. Not lighter because his problems vanished, but lighter because he was no longer carrying them alone. He was forgiven. He was free to start again. Mary had led him there not with condemnation, but with quiet insistence. Come back. Begin anew. In Chicago, the parish of St. Gabriel was divided. Arguments over leadership, finances, and even music choices had fractured the community. People stopped attending Mass. The pews grew emptier each week. Then, during a retreat, the parish priest reminded them of the scene in Acts, Mary in the upper room, praying with the apostles. She had held them together when everything threatened to fall apart. One by one, parishioners began to return, not because the problems disappeared, but because they remembered faith is not a solo journey. A lone flame dies quickly. Many flames burn brighter together. Soon, the laughter of children echoed again in the parish hall. Choirs rehearsed hymns, and the Eucharist drew hearts back into unity. Rachel, Daniel, Grace, Maria, Michael, Thomas, and the parishioners of St. Gabriel never met each other. Their stories unfolded in different corners of America, in different storms. Yet all of them discovered the same truth. Mary's 7 lessons were not abstract theology. They were survival, trust, prayer, patience, love, hope, repentance, unity. Storms never stopped coming, but now they faced them differently. And in each case, they found not only endurance, but peace.